Welcome to the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Frank talk about sex and dating.
Frank talk, sex and dating educates.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today's guest is Allison Jayne Ewing. You'll hear about her thoughts on Cinderella, ghosting, and being a goddess in the bedroom. And if you love the episode, be sure to tell your friends about it and rate it as well. Thanks for joining me today, Allison.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, me too. I love the topics already. So, yeah.
Well, and I love talking about all of this stuff. And I wrote this book actually as what I describe as a love letter for the other single women that I know in my world, friends, clients, and all the struggles they were going through. And that's what really inspired me to write this book and to start getting it out there in the world.
All right, well, let's start with the first thing. We talked a little bit before we got started about the Cinderella, and I said that's pretty much been like the downfall for women is thinking that the fairy tale is like what everyone gets. And so how about start with that?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the most popular chapters I've been told in the book, and the title I probably can't say on here.
But no, it's fine. You can.
Oh, can I? Okay. So it's called How Cinderella Fucked Me Up. And because I realized that when I was a little girl growing up on these fairy tales, and we were a big Disney family and all of that, that I had certain notions. And the big one that I talk about in the book is this notion of that as a woman, it is my role to be chosen by a guy. And I really do blame Cinderella a lot for that, because if you think about sort of the iconic scene, what's happening, the prince is at the top of the stairs looking sort of bored, disdainfully, apathetic down at this group of women who are all like, in this throng, and they're shoving each other out of the way, and they're saying, pick me, and trying to get, his attention, and they're trying to sort of outdo one another. So there's this like women competitive thing that I really hate, and they're trying to, do and be what they think the prince wants to be chosen, right? And I realized that when I was younger and dating and then again post-divorce and dating again, I would go on these dates showing up, or even before then, even like with online dating on chats and stuff, I was presenting as if I'm trying to be chosen. So I'm trying to, be cute and funny, and, what would they like, and how do they want, what is this guy looking for, kind of thing. And it was very, very self-conscious. I think of myself as a pretty confident person. I'm a pretty successful person. I don't have confidence issues in any other area of my life. And I didn't even realize that I did in dating until later, until I started doing a deep dive on like, what is not working here? And that's one thing I realized, that I was really vibing at this level of, I want you to choose me. And I think that is a big turnoff to men. And if we remember that scene, what does the prince do? He ends up seeing Cinderella off in the distance. She's not even looking at him. She's not even trying to get his attention. And she's actually the one he chooses. So I think in that way, Cinderella gives us a little clue of, how to be. So when I realized this, and I realized, okay, I need to flip the script and start to think about, I'm doing the choosing. I have just as much right to, be the chooser as to be the chosen, right? And so I started playing around with this idea, and I actually developed this tool for my clients where I said, okay, I want you to flip around the image of Cinderella, and you are the queen, the goddess queen at the top of the stairs, and there is a throng of men trying to get your attention, trying to get picked by you. And it's just like a little mental tool, but it will really start to shift your subconscious to realize, that there are actually a lot of men out there. I think especially when you're dating midlife, there's so much fear put out that there's no men out there, there's no good men, all the good ones are taken. I've got to take what I can get. I hear that from clients all the time. I got to take what I can get, this idea you have to settle. And so I think if you do this exercise, not only do you start to feel empowered that actually I get to choose and I don't have to work so hard showing up on these dates to get chosen, I can just be me. And I think it starts to get your mind to realize there are actually a lot of guys out there. And when you think there aren't, you don't see them,
Yeah, that's the big point right there. The effect you expect is the effect you get. So if you think dating sucks and there's no men, that's what you're going to get. So I wholeheartedly believe that. And I also talk about books as well. So I just want to mention one more real quick. The Surrendered Single has that same concept where you're on a date to figure out if you like them. You're not trying to impress them. You're trying to decide if you want to choose them or go out again and see what you like and root through that kind of stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I heard you actually talking about that on another one of your podcasts, and I was like, oh, I haven't read that book. I should read it. But I wholeheartedly believe it. But also, there's also neuroscience behind it. And I do talk about that in my book because we have a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. And that is the part of our brain that picks up on patterns. And that is why, you suddenly you decide you're going to get, I don't know, like a Jeep, you're going to buy a Jeep, right? And then all of a sudden you see Jeeps everywhere, right? And you never noticed them before. And you're like, did so many people drive Jeeps before? Or I know for me, the big one was like when I got pregnant and before I was showing. And so only, a handful of people knew I was pregnant, but suddenly I saw pregnant women everywhere, right? And I was like, there were not these many pregnant women before, but there were. But my brain was now tuning into it because my reticular activating system was now turned on and looking for those patterns. So this is one thing I think is really important for people to think about when they're dating at midlife, that if you believe that and your brain keeps rehearsing the sentence, there's no good men out there, you're not going to see any good men out there. But if you shift that and you start to say, no, there are good men out there, or you start to sort of go more into surrender, more into acceptance of, I'm just going to be open. And rather than, look, it's almost like you program your brain to look for the lack of guys because your reticular activating system won't see them, versus you can program your brain to actually look and see and find better men and available men.
yeah, I was gonna say when I was younger, in my prime, I was like on the prowl and like looking everywhere and like desperately like just like what's the word for it? Basically pushing them away, like shunning them, like there was no chance. And then now that I'm older and just could care less, like they're just flocking, and there are tons of great men out there. So yeah, I definitely the mindset.
Exactly. And that's really a lot of what I talk about in my book, because, it's called Find Love Again, Learn to Date Like a Goddess. And the goddessness is a vibe, right? And so it's this vibe that you give off when you shift, when you stop trying to be chosen, pick me, right? And you just move into, actually, I'm going to wait and find what I want, and I'm going to be discerning and all of that.
Frank Talk, sex and dating educates.